Hello and welcome to Creative Sewing. I'm Aideen Cross and I'm glad you can join us today for the last in our Med with Love series of craft tutorials in association with Healthy Ireland and the Kildare County Council. Now it's been a wonderful few months since Christmas with different seasonal crafts, and I've enjoyed it, and I'm certainly from the feedback I've got, I think you've enjoyed it as well. And of course we're back on the last one here, which is Easter, and we're going to do some little chicks and little hens, and then the chicks have chicks as well, so in the little pocket as well there. So there's some hand sewing and machine sewing. Now they can be both done by hand, but I'm going to show you machine on this one and hand on this one, but the both can be done by hand if you want as well. And of course you'll have got your little craft pack with your instructions, with the 2 patterns on it and all the fabric needed. And then of course our little welcome write out as well, and of course our little recipe for the hot cross buns if you choose to do for Easter, because they're very traditional for Easter as well, and certainly very easy to do. I have done them, and they're doable really. So let's get started with our chicks and our hens. Now we're going to start off with our little chicks here pattern. So and your craft pack, of course, you would have had your pattern there, and using your fabric or paper scissors, cutting out your chick all around there. There is a slight little seam allowance on it, very, very slight. It's only about 2 to 3 mil on it, and because we're going to be sewing it, of course, on the outside, and that's the advantage of doing felt as well, because it doesn't fray, and it's quite strong to the edge. Now I'm just cutting past the beak here. You can cut past the beak because I have another beak done, but there is a little notch there, so we can just do a little cut in that, because we're going to have to mark where the beak goes as well. Now, all cut out there. So what the first thing to do would be to pin it on, okay, and size it up, and then we're going to leave a little bit to cut two for the wings. So we need 2 wings. We're also going to cut 2 wings in that as well. Now, with your fabric scissors, then just cut all around. Now that's the chick done there. So I'm just going to place that on top of our print again. If you want to get it, so you get a couple of little chicks into it, and cut 2 of those. Yeah, that's it all done out. Actually, we'll pin this on so it doesn't get lost as well. Yeah, so that's all your pieces cut out now at this stage. And if you just want to get a pencil and mark your little beak, where the beak goes there, just ever so slightly. Okay, on one side, and mark your eyes as well, so you can just on the outside, and the same on the other side as well. And if you want to give a slight mark on the bottom half of the wing as well, just to see where the wing is. So I'm actually just going to do a curve on that, just to mark it, just so it'll sit into it and we'll know where it is, and they'll be both even. So the bottom half of this as well. Okay, so the first thing I would do is actually the little wing. We'll make up the little wings. So literally separate them and have them 2 opposites going 2 different ways, okay? And then put your little fabric on top, and we can pin that then, okay? So what I'm going to do then is just a little running stitch, if you see there, and that, a little running stitch all around the edge. Now again, you can do it by hand. Now I'm doing it with an orange thread, just so we can highlight it and see it a little bit more. And the seam allowance again is only about 3 mil. Yeah, so that's your first little wing done. Get the next wing done then as well. Just, yeah, I'm cutting off your threads. So we'll actually put the wings on now. Okay, so opening up your 2 little pieces and positioning your wings. Now mostly the wings, when we put them on, actually we sew them from the top. You can sew them from the top if you like and have them flapping up, but actually I have mine sewn at the bottom, so we can actually put our little chick sitting inside. So it's the big chick and little chick. So matching it up with the little curve that you've done, okay, and just pinning then. And we're only going to stitch around the bottom from point to point, from side to side, literally on the, again, back to the machine or by hand if you want it, and another little running stitch on the bottom. Now that's it stitched on the bottom, okay, and left loose a little bit at the top. I'll do this one as well. So you're literally just stitching on top of the stitch that you've already done and just on the very bottom, okay, not all the way around. Now that's the two of those on with their little flap left at the top. Now what I actually had done was an extra stitch right around there as well, just to give it a highlight, okay. And I think I'm just going to do it. I might do it in a super stitch, or if you wanted to do it in a little back stitch around it, you're starting from the peak and out again, out about 3 millimeters from the very edge of your wing, okay. Now that's that one done, okay, and then our next one. That's the two of them done. Now what we will do is actually get a needle and thread, and we are going to do the eyes. So, okay, double your thread over, in through the needle, double it over and tie a little knot, okay. So again, when you're putting on something like that, up from the bottom and leaving your knot on the inside, of course, across the bead and pull the bead down, and then go down at the side of the bead, okay. Now we might want to go back up the side of the bead and come back down the center of the bead. So up and down twice should be enough. That should be enough really, twice, and then a good back stitch, 3 little stitches at the back then. And again, the same for the other one then, pulling your knot up and across your bead and back down at the side of your bead, okay. Back up again and back down through the center of the bead. And that's the little eyes on. And again, what holds it on really is the back stitch. Eyes on, so we'll move on to the little beak that we have, okay. So literally we've marked there where we want the beak, so just fold over your beak just in the center of that, okay, and pushing it in about 3 centimeters in, and most of it is out, and you can just stick a little pin in that. So it's the 2 together then, okay, 2 together then, just to stitch all around, so you can give another few little pins. Now I'm going to continue with my super stitch or a back stitch if you want it all the way around. Now you could do a little blanket stitch if you wanted either, but I'm just keeping it quite simple, and again in just about 2 millimeters, if not 3 millimeters, in on the edges all the way around. And as I say, I'm going to do a super stitch again, which I have it up in the machine. So again, 2 stitches and a back stitch to start off with, of course leaving the bottom open for the egg to get into. And a back stitch at the end as well, and that's it. And that's how easy it is really. It's not a difficult task at all. And that's your little egg cozy all ready for an egg or a chocolate egg either. Actually, we need to stuff the head of it. I've nearly forgotten about that. So a little bit of stuffing out of a pillow, or even if cut up some, even if you, whatever scraps you've left, actually, if you want to cut those up and stick them in either. Again, just pushing them in with the pencil at the top of the scissors either, just to give his head a little bit of a rise and a little bit of a puff as well. And actually that's him done. And again, then if you want to see how he fits onto the egg cup, yeah, fits on perfect. Okay, and then you can get your little chick then and put him on the inside the wing then, just to get the little big chick effect. Okay, well that's that one done. Okay, and then we'll move on to the hen next. Okay, starting to make the hen now. Okay, so we'll go back to our pattern pieces, and using our paper scissors we'll cut out the hen pattern. Okay, so all around the edges of that, and we have about a 2 to 3 millimeters seam allowance on it. It's not very much, but you don't need very much really on the felt. The felt won't fray, so it's quite enough for that, and we're doing it on the outside. These are the little turves and stuff on his head and on his chest. So we'll just cut those out as well, and they'll be done in the red. Okay, so it's for the little hen. Cut one of each of those actually in red. Now of course we have the little orange beak as well, which is just a little triangle, and that's there as well. Okay, so those over to one side, as we have our patterns there, and here we go with our material. So the beak then is just onto the orange, and I just pin that on. So we're cutting one of each of these. Okay, so pin down and cut out. That's those two cut out, and just the little beak now. As easy as that. Now the main part itself, just maneuver it onto your fabric and pin it on. Fabric scissors then, and just cutting it all around. Now that's that cut out there as well in the white. Now of course you could cut it out. You could, if you had some nice fabric yourself, you could use it. It's actually quite nice done in a check. If you had a wool check, it's nice too. I had seen them done before. Now those two pieces are done out as well. So what we'll do is open it out, okay, and we're going to start with the hand stitching of this little lad down the front. Okay, now just to know where we put it, we're actually going to put mark it with our pencil. So we're going to mark the two little eyes, okay, which are quite close together. Mark the top of the beak, and get that too far up, and the bottom and the top of this as well. Where does that go to? About there. So the top of the beak, top of that, and then the two little eyes. Okay, so we should have our two little beads in here in the bag. That's perfect. And we get our needle and thread. And I have black on here now, so that I can use that for the eyes. So just start with the eyes. So up from the bottom again, leaving your knot on the inside, okay? In through the bead and back down through the side of the bead, okay? And we want to repeat that then as well, just and back down through your bead. We want to be in and out twice, and then we're going to just do a little one back stitch, and we're going to move over our thread then to the other eye. No need to cut off because they're so close together, so no need to cut off, just bringing it across, putting your bead on, okay, and back down at the side of the bead. Okay, back up then and down through the bead again. Okay, so you've gone up and down twice through the bead, and then we'll finish off this time with a good back stitch going. Change the thread to a red thread, about nice arm's length. Okay, don't have to go over long. Now you can use embroidery thread, thin out a little bit of embroidery thread either for this if you want. If you haven't got red, fold it over in half, double up your thread, and a nice good knot on it. Again, we're going to line this lad up with our little dot in the center, okay, and we're literally just doing a little running stitch up from the bottom, of course, starting off. Okay, so a little running stitch down, in and out. Doesn't have to be too smaller of stitches either. Stitches, I suppose, about 3 mil apart, up and down the whole way down. Because what we're going to do is go the whole way down with a little running stitch, and then we're going to alternatively in between that then where we're running stitches, we're going to come back up then as well with another running stitch just to fill in the gap. Okay. And now we need to put our little orange beak on, so we're going to move our thread at the back right up to where the beak is, and we just get our beak, and it's only a matter of stitching a few little stitches across the top of the beak. Okay, so tiny little stabs up and down. We don't want it too noticeable, and only across the top, leaving it a little bit loose, a little bit of flap on it. These are lovely well, all year round actually, if not just at Easter, for kids or even for yourself, just even a little lovely on the shelf, or for say keeping the egg warm, or a lovely for a surprise on Easter morning. Get a couple of little chocolate eggs and pretend you've done some of them boiled, and put a little chocolate egg on the breakfast table. Nice little surprise, because that's what Easter's all about, is chocolate for breakfast as well too, isn't it? Now, so that's that, and we're going to cut off, and we did a good back stitch, and we're going to cut that off. And what I had done actually was, if you can see, there is a little bit of rosiness on the cheeks. So if you want to actually just finish off with a little, maybe colouring pencil, I have a little chalk, just gives them a little, brightens them up a little bit. Okay, so what we're going to do now is put the two sides together. I'll make sure they're exactly the way you cut them. Sometimes there's a slight discrepancy between one side and the other. You might have to turn it over. Now that's more the way I cut it. And pin these all around, because a good knot, getting your two sides together. Now I'm hiding the knot a little bit on the inside, so only opening up the inside there a little bit, and then going round the bottom just to make it nice and secure. You will want a nice secure finish on that there, on the bottom where the egg is coming in and out. So literally the little running stitch, then in and out all the way along, a little about 4-5 millimeter stitches then all the way around. Now, the seam allowance on this is only 2 or 3 mil. It's very, very small. It's just on the very edge, near the edge, not enough to fall off or anything. But they're these are a lovely little gift if you wanted to give them to somebody as well, a family member or a neighbour, and actually quite easy to post if you wanted to. Sure, they're so small to post, and for an Easter little gift or a little surprise as well, which is lovely. Now try and keep your stitches as even as you can. Of course, they're quite easily seen, so there will have to be, if you're not a great sewer, if you want to, if you think your stitches isn't great, go with the colour of it, go with the white then, and then you won't see them as much. But they are effective in the red. Again, a really loop stitch around the end of that to make it good and tight, 4 or 5, maybe 6 times, giving it a good and tight so it's good and strong at the bottom. Okay, so that's it there. And now we have our last little headpiece belonging to this hen, okay, on the top. So before we do that, we'll actually stuff the head. So again, another little bit of stuffing. You could use, I have the stuffing here, but you could use, let's say, the little scraps, what's left over, the felt, put it into the head. Okay, so I think there's enough in that. And again, position it in the center. I think we'll just start with the center, see, like that, halfway, and I'm going to tiny little stitches over there, and then just down to the end, and hope tiny little stitches loosely. Now, in order to get rid of that knot as well, I don't want the knot coming out on the outside, I'm going to poke it in through the center there. Okay, open up his head and poke it in and bring it back, the needle back out to where I want. So the little knot is coming down through the center of his head. Okay, and there it is. And a tiny, grasping a tiny little piece, just an overstitch on it. Okay, just an overstitch on it. Then run your needle and thread up to the top, okay, on the inside, and a couple of tiny little stitches, 2 or 3 stitches there. Okay, see where it's, and you want to give it a little bit, so there's a little bit of movement on it. Okay, if you want, you can stretch it into a little bit more shape. Now coming back, run your stitch down the halfway down the head underneath, and again another little stitch there, and slipping it down to the end of this little red as well. Okay, and there you go, a couple of little over stitches then at the very end as well. You can go in for 4 or 5 of those, because of course we're finishing off as well. Okay, so I think I have enough on at that. Okay, so that's the little over piece there at that, and that's him done and finished. And let's just try it on the egg and see how it sits. Yeah, okay, so that's the two done, and hope you enjoyed that and managed to do it successfully. Now that's our tutorial for the big chick, little chick egg cozies done, and I hope they worked out well for you indeed, and lovely for Easter morning for both adult and child. Thank you for joining us today for the tutorial, and I've enjoyed these Made with Love tutorials, and I hope you have too, and I hope to see you again for more maybe later in the year. And thanks to Healthy Ireland and Kildare County Council for this Bursary Award. It's been a wonderful few months doing the seasonal crafts. I've really enjoyed it, and I know you have too. Take care. Bye bye.